you're going to see Meta try and push Meta Shop a lot more, Instagram and Facebook Shop. This is the most exciting thing to happen in a long time in the world of e-commerce. And dare I say it, the most exciting thing before that was probably COVID. People are making the purchase without even entering the store. So how do you compete in that environment? I was talking to my accountant the other day. We're seeing a lot of small businesses go out of business because they don't know what to do or how to navigate the ever-changing customer cycle.
Would you say it's fair to say that brands are almost becoming like a data product as much as they are a brand?
But we're entering a no-click environment, and I'm kind of here for it.
Welcome back to Generate Grow, the podcast where we talk about all things ecom, marketing, and
AI. It's an episode on AI, so let's go for it.
Oh, just still going?
Yeah, why not?
Today we're here to talk about no-click environments and agentic commerce. Obviously, it's been the biggest hot topic for us recently. We've been to about 5, 6, maybe even more networking events, and it's all over LinkedIn, all over Instagram, etc., and everyone's talking about it. So do you want to first of all get everyone hyped up about AI?
Yeah, I guess like the biggest thing for me right now is the shift in buyer behaviour. It's huge and it's noticeable and it's tangible.
Yeah.
And this gives us a huge opportunity to start to study like where we can go next. Not just as a like agency, but where ecom brands are going to go next. Because our shoppers are already moving. And I think ultimately what that does is it poses a lot of challenges. You talk about ethics around AI and stuff like that. But also it gives us the opportunity to learn. And I think this is the most exciting thing to happen in a long time in the world of e-commerce. And dare I say it, the most exciting thing before that was probably COVID, because everything shifted online.
Yeah.
And that was a quick like bulk up moment where a lot of businesses had to, push their services through online. And that was a completely different environment. So we're talking about the rapid rise of something that seemingly, to me, feels almost like on the brink of out of control. And there's so many different ways that we can talk about this and so many different angles that I'm sure you're going to press on. But we're entering like a no-click environment.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of here for it because I think what this is going to do is really pull the brands with authenticity away from the ones that are just here for the quick, cheap wins.
Yeah. Before we kind of get into all of it then, obviously we've both mentioned no-click a few times already. What is no-click for anyone who's like...
This is basically people not getting to your store. So we've have built, ecosystems and structures around our Shopify stores or, any e-com store platform provider. And what this basically means is people are making the purchase without even entering your store. So how do you compete in that environment? And that's basically what the no-click environment is. It's you're selling to people who are not even going to engage with your store, where they could potentially look at things like blogs, reviews, returns policies, all that stuff that would make an informed buyer's decision. So how do we end up like ahead of the game in that sense?
So with less people landing on sites then, what's now important?
I think a huge one, and if I had to start with priority, is your products and your product descriptions and understanding what you're selling. That's number one. Because what's going to end up happening is we're already seeing it on Google. Like they're announcing sponsored shops. And basically what that means is your individual products won't even be getting advertised anymore on the shopping feed. Your shop will. And I think that's so interesting as a concept, because within there, you're going to have that key rich data that is going to be able to pull your product ahead of others. And I think that comes with a lot of different like territories, understanding the products on a fundamental basis, but why it's different. Now, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say that as consumers, when we're looking for a product and we're looking in a no-click environment specifically, and we're looking at that comparison, especially on the Google shopping feed, the first thing we look at is reviews and price. And that's where your attention goes to. And for me, funnily, I don't know if anyone else is kind of built like this. I look at the cheapest and I look at the most expensive as well. Kind of gives me a rough estimate of the ballpark I should be playing in. and that allows me to understand where to go to. So one, optimizing your product feed, but there's other things as well. And what we specifically are talking about internally in the agency right now is earned and owned media. Two different things. Now, earned media is potentially UGC written about your brand, PR reviews, PR features, reviews, and your owned media is your blogs, your product descriptions, that rich data that you can control. Two different things, and both need very different strategies and attention so that you can start to be fed into ChatGPT, Gemini, the AI overview that appears on Google that people do find annoying, but I do think are going to start to trust as the platform gets more rich data. So those are the places where I really think that these ecom brands need to be focusing on to start competing against others.
On the back of that, then, would you say it's fair to say that brands are almost becoming like a data product as much as they are a brand?
100%. I think it's totally fair to say, and we can see this happening on Meta for the past, however many years that we've been running ads. Is that one of the key things that Meta takes into consideration without anyone actually knowing it is things like your return window and how quick people are getting returns. And they do this by running surveys to your potential customers and their experience with your brand. And that can affect things like your CPMs. So there's going to be more like fundamentals of, are you getting your systems and structures right to be able to give a really good customer experience without someone even entering your store? And I think what we're going to see also is the emergence of things like, we've seen how quick TikTok Shop grew into almost like this QVC style trusted platform for this quick churn of product, but also where brands actually managed to sell high AOV products on there as well by a good content strategy that built like trust with the brand itself. You're going to see Meta try and push Meta Shop a lot more, Instagram and Facebook Shop. They did try and launch that in around 2022, 23. Don't come for me. I can't remember the exact timeline. But I remember that when they launched it in the US specifically, the trust wasn't there. And I think that's because Meta and Instagram, have not, Facebook and Instagram, have not been built specifically to be the content engine that's rich and authentic like TikTok has. So all these different platforms that we know are coming up with their own trust and authenticity kind of roadblocks, if you like, and we're trying to play the game on those platforms as well. So I think in order to do that, you have to have those rich data points, which is essentially surrounded by content and how you represent yourself online and how you stand out from the crowd as well. And ultimately that feeds into engagement metrics and stuff like that I have no doubt that AI is going to take into consideration when it comes to your ranking.
It's fair to say then that the traditional customer funnel is just completely changing.
I think a sledgehammer has been taken to the original customer funnel, and I think it got changed. I think this markedly changed when TikTok Shop got introduced anyway. I think what TikTok did was take a lot of reputable brands and ran a discount strategy at aggression during a time when there was a recession, specifically in the UK, and that really made people's profit margins squeeze. And now we're seeing a lot of these TikTok brands shut down. And I was talking to my accountant the other day. We're seeing a lot of small businesses go out of like business because they don't know what to do or how to navigate the ever-changing customer cycle. We were having a conversation about, how this has actually gone full circle. And I think people are craving in-person opportunities now more than ever because we've almost become like belligerent with just information just being thrown at us all the time and expecting to absorb. That now what we're looking for is those people that are going to stand out and build communities beyond just the online experience where there's a quick buck to be made. So I think it's difficult for me, but I think all these content rich engines that we thought had trust and authenticity are now really being shone a spotlight on it.
I think a really good example of that trust kind of connecting to like the in-person the in-person shopping that you just mentioned, things like makers markets.
Yeah.
Obviously, we attend them like quite a lot, probably far too much than we should.
Yeah.
And we're always quite easily sold when someone has a really good personality. They've got a really unique product. But fundamentally, we could go on Etsy and find the same thing.
Yeah.
But we're buying from the person and we're supporting
Yeah.
them. So how does someone build that trust then? Because we specifically work in ecom, like it is all online. So if we're compressing the funnel, we're creating these no-click environments, how do brands legitimately build that trust?
I think from the first podcast that we did, there was a snippet of me specifically saying, if your product and your offer's shit, don't even bother. And I think I'm doubling down on that.
Yeah.
Because fundamentally, no matter what your online experience is, you could have this all bells and whistles. And even if we're talking about the no-click environment, the website could be stunning. Your customer service could be absolutely fantastic. The product could get to someone within 24 hours, all that. But if your product's not memorable, what is the point? There's a fundamental, I think, where like we're seeing this churn of different like cheap products come into the market and just have a label slapped on it, and it's just the exact same as the competitors, and that's happening on repeat, and the content is actually winning the purchase in that specific area. But what that's doing is making people less trusted than ever and more like flirty with other brands, if you like, and more willing to go and try and be disloyal to you and try something else. And we mentioned that in the whole overconsumption angle that was happening. This kind of time is pivotal because what's happening is we're seeing a shift from people being advertised to by actively seeking out advertisements, by approaching LLMs and going, I've got this issue, or I need this product, or I've got a partner who's interested in this. Give me suggestions. If you've not got a strong product description, owned media, you're going to be absolutely bullied out of the kind of rankings, if you like, and your competitors are going to just stomp all over you.
AI is something that obviously you've been very, very passionate about recently, and you've almost been researching this until you've been blue in the face. I know you've been working on some like AI like data reading in terms of like just plugging it into ecom stores and things like that. And what are those findings looking like for you right now?
I think what's really, really interesting is when I talk about like, more like the wholesale websites. So we've got a specific client right now who's a beauty brand that stocks a lot of different like beauty brands that they believe in from like an ethical standpoint. Love the website, love the story and the reason why they're doing things. But obviously the stockist, it's a stockist website. So they're going to be practically competing against the real thing. And I think what's interesting is seeing and studying what a brand believes their customer wants or needs versus what the customer is actually screaming out for. So this specific brand focuses very nichely on curls, specifically for people of colour. So they go very like down that route aggressively, which is where their bread and butter started, but they expanded into different range. And actually what AI is saying is your people are asking for K-beauty products.
Oh, wow. That is like a complete tangent as well.
Complete tangent, but the search volume's there and it's aggressive. What are you doing to get in front of that K-beauty crowd? And that then, you've been given, like you've been served on a platter. Here is what your customer is after. They're asking specific questions about this. Are you going to pivot?
Yeah.
That's the question. Like, are you going to stay true to who you are as a brand, or are you going to pivot towards, where there's longevity? Is K-beauty just a phase? J-beauty, is it just a phase? Like, are these just fads in the ever cycle of churn of beauty that seems to just be one thing after another? Or is this here to stay? And that's when you've got to make a decision. I think the best brands out there are going to be the ones that dynamically move with the flavour now of where the customer's going, but being able to predict the next kind of step, if you like. So, for example, our solar panel brand that we work closely with, they have managed to unlock a wealth of different, like, kind of people who they could potentially sell to. If on AI they started to see an increase in specific listings, Will they, go down the route of doubling down on that market? Well, I think they should. But I think one of the things that is so important is this is so new. Like the data is so fresh and so like we're learning from the ground up right now. And these tools that we're unlocking in the agency haven't even been around a year. How can we be making big business decisions based on less than a year's data? But it's so important also to keep your finger on the pulse of where your customer's going.
Yeah. In terms of those pivots then that we're talking about, what does a pivot like look like to get someone almost ready? I feel like I'm kind of giving away spoilers here, to be fair, but what's kind of like the cliff notes in terms of what someone needs to do to almost get their store ready a little bit?
I think for me, like, blogging's back. I
love that.
I think it's so fun to see it come back, because I always remember like this big thing about blogging dying, and actually the people who stayed consistent to that throughout this blogging's dead era are the ones that are ranking. Vlogging's back. Like, all these things and nuances to marketing that we thought were dead and buried are back, and these are things that we can control. When we start to learn what our customer is actively looking for, we can produce content based on the back of it and then control that media. I was working specifically on one of these AI audits to see where people were ranking in terms of search terms. It was referencing TikTok. Oh, wow. It was literally taking TikTok as a rank of authority. Anyone can say anything on TikTok. Reddit is another one. Anyone can say anything. It's user generated. These are things and conversations where brands, depends how sneaky you want to be, can get ahead of the curve, because you can start to appear on those platforms as authentic by working with affiliate partners, or like maybe just making up an account on Reddit and recommending your brand in a few I think called subreddits. I've never been on Reddit.
You are right on that one.
Subreddits where you can start to comment and mention your brand positively, and that'll start to move you up in your sentiment score and how you're viewed and cited within the AI tools.
Oh, great. I love that. It's so fascinating. I think the way that things are changing is just it.
I mean, it brings up the question of authenticity again, though, doesn't it? I've just said 2 examples there where you can manipulate the algorithm. How many times is that's going to the point where you could manipulate it by building bots to go out and support your brand in a positive way? So how quick is AI going to be able to capture that audience and understand if it's real or not?
I think it's really, really interesting for me from like a marketer and then consumer perspective, because I find it fascinating as a marketer. However, having this side of me and kind of knowing what's going on behind the scenes, I notice now that as a consumer, I trust nothing.
Yeah.
I trust nothing that I see on the internet. I don't trust the reviews anymore. I've seen those get faked. I don't trust what people are saying about it on social media anymore, because I'm like, how much has the influencer been paid? Like there's so many different things. And especially with AI, like we had a client contact us the other day, and I can't even remember if I did show you this one, but their entire website had been churned through AI, and all of their before and afters were AI. And I was just like, no. How can people trust you when it was like a side by side of like a hair result, and it was obviously your poofy frizzy hair that was all sleek and shiny on the next one. You could tell it was AI, and it was so clear.
Wow.
And obviously I turned around and went, oh my God, that is AI, clear as day. I don't vibe with that. I would not buy from you, and maybe you're not the right fit for us because your positioning's off. However, they had about 12,000 reviews on the website. Whether they were legit or not, I don't know. But, to a lot of people, 12,000 reviews and those phenomenal looking results, they'll fall for it at face value, especially with a cheap product.
I mean, there was this time, right, when I worked with a baby brand that specifically did embroidery, like the embroidery names of the baby on the jumper. Really nice product, handmade, all that jazz. And during this period of testing, we were targeting parents, and parents weren't converting. We were like, why? It's a really nice product, blah, blah, blah. We switched the audience and we just did a simple tweak of the age, and we just went, you know what? Let's try it at 65 plus.
So you got the grandparents.
I got the grandparents, and even the great grandparents, right?
Oh, wow.
We're talking about people who are, and this isn't an age thing, it's just a specific example. We're talking about people who potentially could be so vulnerable to this because it's getting so intuitive.
Yeah.
One of our creative production partners, Revolution, are so ahead of the game when it comes to building these AI creatives. Damian showed me today a video that he created. I could not believe it was AI.
Was this the dinosaur?
No, it wasn't the dinosaur, I should say. It was someone's hand putting down something on a table. I think it was a can of beer, actually. Or it was pouring a can of beer. No, it was pouring a can of beer. And the bubbles in the beer was so authentic. It was so authentic. But then I looked at the hand and I knew why it made me think that this was real. Was it had like little tiny callus, like little
marks on the
little
finger.
nail pull, on the hand, little bit of arm hair coming into the shot. It all looked really like legit. And I swear I would have, if someone showed me that video, I would not have known it was AI. The rest of it fundamentally has been built like to look a little bit more AI and like special effectsy. But that specific shot, I was like, that is scary. It's getting to the point where it's not even conceivable by someone who's so ingrained into it.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at people who are, as you say, out of the picture and are just maybe from a consumer perspective, wow, like they're going to follow hook, line and sinker for it. And again, what are these big platforms doing to build in that authenticity score? But I'm seeing citations from places like Reddit, which, it could be valid, but at the same time, it is user generated and that is ranking. It's such a tightrope because you want that authenticity of people being able to actively leave feedback. And this is where I feel like it's a wild west again. The internet has become a bit of a wild west. I think, Meta and the whole account closures that are sweeping across Meta right now, if you're not under Meta verified, I think every social media platform is going to start to jump onto that.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to verify yourself as a person to legitimately engage in, active discussions that are going to inform these platforms.
Yeah, it's getting crazy out there.
It feels very Big Brother. It feels very, very Big Brother. And I think he is watching now. And I think whereby the Cambridge Analytica scandal with Meta happened and we were all so upset about our data being leaked, there's free plans being used by everyone now. And we're getting tracked everywhere across the internet. And I don't think enough is being done to promote IT safety from a fundamental level through school, but more importantly in our job roles and things like that, where we're in positions of power and we're potentially giving away information that is so fundamental to situations. We're all guilty of it, but I don't think people understand how much power is in the hands of LLMs right now. And there's a reason why they're moving so quickly and learning so quickly as well.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, it's massively important to these ecom brands now that they are adapting and kind of keeping up with the times, because if they don't, fundamentally your Amazons and your Sephoras, for example, using the kind of department store example, will just completely sweep you and they'll take over.
That was one of the first things that I discovered when I was actually deep diving in, is that these department stores have a lot more leverage and power to be able to navigate this quickly. John Lewis kept appearing.
Oh, wow.
Found that really fascinating. But at the same time, when I actually sat back and thought about it, John Lewis has been going for years. Imagine how big their online presence is. Like in terms of the actual digital footprint attached to that brand. Of course they're going to be ranking like higher. So then what we've got in Google ads right now, where people are actively searching and we're competing against stockists actively, for these brands, now that's going to happen inside those platforms too.
Yeah, because that's the thing, isn't it? If anyone Googles John Lewis, they already know the brand, they know how established they are, and they know what kind of service they're going to get. Like, they're quite notorious, John Lewis, for having phenomenal customer service, aren't they? Like, I always spend a little bit more and buy from John Lewis if I can, like if I'm buying a major purchase. But then you've got your other brands. Trip was the first thing that popped up, which is an awful example because we're using John Lewis. But then if you search for Trip and you go on their store directly, they're not necessarily a household name right now, and not every single person knows of them. So how do they begin to compete? If John Lewis was stocking their product, how can they even begin to compete with the giants? And that's where this becomes really, really important. So this is going to matter more and more as we get close to Black Friday, right?
Oh, I think so, 100%, because I think what we're going to see is LLMs being actively used as a discount scourer. So I think that people are going to preemptively start to search ahead of the time of what brands are going to be doing the best offers, and what that will do is be able to export and pull historical data as well.
I've got a funny example for you on that, actually. I did that last year.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
So see, but see what I mean? So it's already happening. It's already actively happening.
I was in dire need of a new iPhone. They are ridiculously overpriced, and I like paying for them up front, so I can pay really low costs on my SIM every single month. It costs me like £15 for an unlimited SIM.
Yeah.
So I pay up front for my handset, no interest, I'm happy, I'm chill. So I was instantly like, is there going to be any Black Friday sales on this year based on what happened last year? And the first thing I did was I ran to ChatGPT. I popped it on research mode because I wanted it to do a proper deep dive for me. And I went, I want the iPhone 17 Pro Max 512 GB, something like that. Were they on sale last year? And it kind of churned out all these like, no, it wasn't, because it's Apple. It's never on sale. But what I did get was kind of this deep dive into, however, if you buy from John Lewis, you might get £25 cash back because they did this last year. If you buy from Curry's, what they were offering was that students got a free pair of AirPods with it. And then I could make an informed decision based on the data from last year.
People are actively searching it from these LLMs because they have more trust in the LLM than they do what's being put in front of them by brands.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
Yeah, because, fundamentally, I made my decision based on that. I basically got these results of, if you've got a student card, you get your free AirPods. I've not got a student card, so I'm not going to get that. And the £25 cash back, I think, was when you signed up for another website or something like that. And I was like, I can't be arsed with the graph, to be honest, for 25 quid when I'm spending £1,000 on a phone. So I went, right, well, I need it quick, so I'm just going to buy it today, like that. That LLM made me make my decision there and then on the spot.
Because you felt informed enough to make the decision.
100%.
And this is what I think brands are missing. Like when you hide things like your shipping policy, or you don't have blogs, or you don't have active reviews on the website, you're hiding information. Whether you are intentionally or not, that's the way that the consumer is gonna view it, essentially. And I think this is where we can go and talk a little bit about ethics. I don't know if you've got that lined up as one of your questions later.
But go ahead.
So, yeah, ethically, where do these LLMs stop?
Yeah.
Because and I think they're getting better at it, right? Because it's almost like a chatbot feature that feels like a human in nature that you're speaking to. I'll give a really good example, exposing myself here, is the other day I was spiraling about something in business and I was going back and forth with the LLM to say, what next? What next? What do I do now? And I let my anxiety pour into this LLM. I was asking every feasible question. And I noticed that ChatGPT, I was speaking specifically about Claude then, ChatGPT will let you continue. ChatGPT will let you go till you're blue in the face. Claude started checking me on my behaviour.
Oh, wow.
Claude started turning around and going, maybe it's time to log off. It's roughly 10 p.m. where you are. I think you've done enough now, Caitlin. Full name, like naming me. You're doing great at this. Give me some reassurance to take the time off. I then went back to the chatbot the next day and went back in my anxiety streak to ask one more question. And it went, wait 48 hours.
Wow.
It actually told me to stop using it.
That's getting horrifyingly human, because from my perspective, I'm like, oh, I feel like Claude's coming for my job.
It literally is so... I think it's getting to the point of where it's scary, because what it's doing is it's building an empathy database as if it is a human being. And I loved it at the time because I was like, oh, put me in my place. But at the same time, I was like, oh my God, if this was like a text back and forth, which I can see it coming into like maybe like a WhatsApp, for example, you can, as crazy as it sounds, because I don't know if you've seen the Scarlett Johansson film Her, where he falls in love with like it's an earpiece, like AI bot that speaks to him and learns about him, and he falls in love with it. I kind of get it now, because we're talking about online dating and like people like conversing through like Tinder and stuff and Hinge and whatever. that was convincing. It made me feel validated in that moment. It actually made me stop what I was doing. I closed my laptop. So we're getting to that point where it is almost like human.
And I think what's weird then in terms of like the boundaries is AI is becoming more human and humans are becoming more AI.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll make Joel laugh actually for me to steal this example, but you mentioned dating apps and my brain instantly went there. She was speaking to someone on a dating app and this guy was sending the messages back to her and she was like, I'm sorry, is that an M dash? And he was like, and she goes and pushes him one more time and goes, are you responding to me through AI right now? And he went, yeah. He was like, well, English isn't my first language. And she was like, well, you were speaking fine with me at the start of the conversation and all of a sudden it became difficult and now you're a robot and you're not a human. Like, huh?
It's like that blurred line.
Yeah.
And but you can see where everything's getting so messy, right?
It's getting a bit Black Mirror.
Oh, it was this time last year. And now it's just going more into the kind of the strange, weird and wonderful.
But in terms of like the good side of it, though, because obviously it does have its benefits and obviously we do need to adapt and we need to stay away from the weird side of it. Very much so. What should people be doing then in terms of like straight away, like actionables? What should people be looking out for to get themselves ready for this wave?
Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do is kind of make this a little bit more broad because I said right at the beginning, like get your product description sorted, get your blog post sorted, get your PR, all those things are right at the beginning of the podcast. Go and watch that bit back and double down on that stuff. What I'm going to say is much more broader and it's helpful for anyone. Use this as an opportunity to learn. The way that the LLMs are working right now is feeding back to you information on repeat. So you have this insane opportunity right now to learn quicker, faster, speedier, and for the LLM to understand how to build a learning module of anything to your specific standard. I'm the kind of person that likes to do things one step at a time, but I'm a very hands-on, get in and do things. I think it's called a kinesthetic learner.
Yeah.
So when I explain that and give my Myers-Briggs and all that to an LLM, and then I'm trying to learn something like how to use AI, like, something as broad as that, it will give me the fundamental breakdown on who I am as a person. And then it will be able to churn it back. That's where it's beneficial and it's really, really positive. So in terms of ecom brand owners, make sure you get your earn and own media sorted. Look at your product descriptions in specifics because that is what is going to be utilised and harnessed throughout this entire journey. Check your ad accounts to make sure no AI is turning your creators into something crazy.
Heels without the heel.
Yeah, but also lean into it a little bit. Know fundamentally about the plan that you're signing up for from an ethical standpoint so you're not giving all your data away. And yeah, like really try to understand and learn from it is kind of like my key takeaway.
If someone's stuck in kind of like their key actionables and what they need to take from it specifically, where should they go?
We've got a lead magnet coming out.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
And I think the lead magnet, I mean, that was a shameless plug, wasn't it?
Yeah,
we could have.
But...
Yeah, we'll go down that route. But we've got a lead magnet coming out about agentic commerce, if you're ready for it, what you should be looking at, and the specifics broken down into different areas, actually. So it fundamentally goes right into the specifics of where you can kind of focus first and foremost on where you're struggling the most because it's different for every single founder.
Amazing. Anything else to add on AI before we go? Last minute nerd out moment.
I'm not going to say much more. I think, make sure you're reading up on it and you're using it responsibly. That's all I'll say because it's got the capability to be like really detrimental, but learning how to balance human and AI is so important now more than ever.
Yeah. And away from ecom, ChatGPT is not your doctor. Go and see a doctor.
Yeah, go see a doctor.
If you're struggling with your mental health and Claude's telling you, that you're struggling, go see someone. Don't stick in Claude.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Next week we're going to be talking about basically it's our little, I was going to say annual then, but monthly, more personal chat. So we'll be talking about running the business when external pressures are eating your time, which is a hot topic for you at the minute, and I'd probably say even more so this week when you're filming on like shorter weeks as well. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be an exciting one.
Yeah, I'm ready to stick into it.
Yeah, let's do it. Sign off the way that we sign off, Jamie.
Let's do it. I think that there's not a day that goes by where I'm not absolutely exhausted.
Keeping things as honest and as frank as we possibly can, obviously.
What I keep grounding myself with is when these external pressures happen, this isn't your business doing this to you. These are like things that are out of your control.